I'm an artist. My name is Roberta Smith. In 2011, I painted this painting, which really reflected my ideas about what our government is doing to art education in secondary schools. And it's my letter to Michael Gove. It's on my website. We've marched through Parliament carrying that painting, and it's been shown around the country. It led me to then organise an event in Scarborough in November called the Art Party. And the Art Party was purposefully, it could be a political party, but actually it was a party. It was a lot of fun. We had Jeremy Deller, Cornelia Parker, Richard Wentworth. Lots of really terrific artists came, and they told us why they felt art was really important in schools. Also, the first artist that turned them onto art. I want to tell you really, using a series of props, artworks really. They're not props, they're very precious items. TEDxCourtauldInstitute would know that. This is a painting of my father. My father was Frederick Brill, but he started his working life in Fulham in the Blue Band margarine factory, trying to avoid falling into vats of margarine, and also sold vegetables on North End Road Market. He was a very working class lad, but he could draw. He could draw like a Renaissance master. I've got a drawing of my great aunt Polly, and it really is an extraordinary thing. And his ability to draw completely revolutionised and changed his life. And it changed my life and my kids' life. Because he could draw, he went to the Royal College of Art, and then he ended up running Chelsea School of Art in the 1960s and 70s. But this painting was painted by an artist called James Stroudley, who is his teacher. And this painting really tells me one thing, that art gives a voice to the voiceless, and also it is a ladder to the disenfranchised. So there we are. Thank you, James Stroudley, for painting that painting. Now, the next item I've got here, these in my 5-point plan to convince you that art's really important. It's an annual, obviously we produce it every year, by an organisation called D&AD. And basically, D&AD is a group of designers who organise Oscars for designers, basically. And they ask a different artist or designer to design this annual every year. And in 2010, they asked me to do it. And I said, well, yeah, okay, it won't take me very long. How many pages are there in the annual? And I was expecting them to say about 120. 600 pages, ladies and gentlemen. This is it took months. And it really surprised me the amount of different professions within the creative industries there are. And we as a nation are rubbish about telling children in schools about all the different things that they could do with their artistic creativity. So there's everything from branding to digital imagery through to advertising. And these people are all the leaders in their fields, and they all win prizes in this process. But the other thing about this is that all of these people would have done Art GCSE at school. They would have done an Art A-level, and many of them would have done a foundation course, and I suppose 80 to 90% of them would have studied an art industry-related subject in higher education. The other thing, it's called Everything is Made, because everything is made. Everything that has been made by a human being has been designed with a blank sheet of paper. All objects have been discussed and pushed around and thought about with blank sheets of paper and pencils, and those ideas have been made visual. So this idea that everything is made is important. You know, the TEDxCourtauldInstitute has been built. Somebody's designed that cornice. All the clothes that you're wearing today have been organised and designed by a human being. My jacket's been designed by Comme des Garçons. So there you have it. You've got the voice for the voiceless argument, and you've got the creative industries argument for the arts. So this is a poster that I designed for a wonderful organisation called the NSEAD. And the NSEAD, burdening you with acronyms, is the National Society for Educators in Art and Design. And basically they're a kind of art school, art teachers union. They invited me to be their patron, and I designed this poster. And it says, give a child pencils, paper, paint and brushes, and you teach her or him to sing. Art makes children powerful. And, you know, I think that's true. I think if you give sheets of blank paper to kids, they have to come up with the answers. It is the only subject in schools in which the kids have all the right answers. If you set an art project in a school to a class, you set up a still life or a printing project, you're going to get as many different answers to that single question as there are children in the room. So it's an amazing thing. Not until you get to undergraduate philosophy do you get to the idea that there are multiple answers to the questions which we have to face. And the other thing about it is it teaches kids to ask the questions. And then the other really important thing is if you have constructed your answer, if you have come up with the answer, then you believe in your answer. So it teaches kids an idea about selfhood, and it makes kids powerful. Kids who do art at schools achieve way and above in other subjects than kids who don't. And so it's a very powerful thing in terms of the construction of selfhood, and then also as an idea about cognitive learning. So that's an important aspect to it. Now here's another Bob and Roberta Smith artwork, poster. And so this is a poster I made for London Underground. London Underground is a marvellous public space. Millions of people going through it all the time. And I was asked to make an artwork for London Underground. And this is a poster for a film that I made called Who is Community? Behind all of my thinking is this lady, and she's fantastic to talk about her in the Women of the World festival in that kind of context, because she said man doesn't live on the earth, men live on the earth. Her development really is extraordinary because she was Heidegger's, the German theorist is Heidegger's sort of girlfriend in 1920s and 1930s Germany. And Heidegger began to think that Hitler had some pretty good ideas, but Hannah Arendt was Jewish. And so they had a very stormy relationship, but it ended up with Heidegger betraying her to the Gestapo. She was interviewed by the Gestapo, and the amazing thing is that she left Germany and went to go and live in Paris, where she hung out with a Frankfurt school, people like Walter Benjamin. When France was overrun by the Germans during the Second World War, she was interred in a prison camp, Camp Gurs. This is the extraordinary thing. Walter Benjamin escaped in that same period, and he committed suicide on the Pyrenees. But Hannah Arendt escaped. She actually escaped this camp, wasn't sent off to the Holocaust, and she became, in the 1950s, she became the first, she would have hated all of these terms because she was a powerful feminist, but she really became the first professor of philosophy at Princeton. And her work was to try and understand why Germany, which was a sophisticated democracy, nascent democracy in the Weimar period, was cut up by extremists, and the Nazis came to power. And her conclusions have a strong resonance for our time and a resonance for art, because she thought democracy has to be shored up in ways which are performative, participatory, and associative. And what I mean by that is that individuals in society have to perform democratically. We have to take that on board. A lot of the talks we've had today are based on that kind of idea, that we have a responsibility to act as individuals. The other suggestions in there also suggest that she fell out with all her Marxist chums because she suggested that the private sector and the public sector have to come together in order to construct public space. And then she also felt that free association is a very important aspect of a democratic society. And all of those things are resonant, and they will be resonant for every generation that has to fight its battles to keep the world a democratic space. So this is a sign I made in 2012. In 2012, the Chinese artist Ai Weiwei was arrested. To begin with, he just disappeared. Nobody knew where he was. And at that time, I had a sort of bit of a relationship with the Tate Gallery. The Tate had put an amazing Ai Weiwei installation into the turbine hall of his sunflower seeds. And, I met Ai Weiwei when he was doing that. And so I kind of had a sense immediately that something was very wrong. And I was being photographed by The Guardian for something else. And I said to the photographer, let's turn a sign round and I'll just write, where is Ai Weiwei on it? And then they published that in the next day's Guardian. The following week, Chris Durkon, who was the director of the Tate, changed the sign on the front of the tape from Ai Weiwei, advertising the Ai Weiwei exhibition, to Free Ai Weiwei. That was a very, very important political moment, because the two organisations which really got involved in highlighting Ai Weiwei, they weren't really arts organisations, they were Amnesty International and Index on Censorship. And it tells us that art is extremely important. One of the big arguments for maintaining the arts is freedom of expression. Ai Weiwei's difficulties are not unconnected with Edward Snowden's, Julian Assange, or Chelsea Manning's, because in the digital age we are going through an incredible revolution. But in the digital age, when we've been sold the idea that all our imagery, all our data exists on a cloud, there is no cloud, we know that. But when it's existing on somebody else's server, when we realise that, we understand that our identity, our control over it, our ability to manipulate those images, our ability to communicate with each other is a hugely contested space. And art schools and places like the Courtauld-Institute, art schools are becoming freedom of expression centres. They're becoming democracy, fantastic repositories for democratic values. So that's the freedom of expression argument. So there you have it. You've got art gives a voice to the voiceless. You've got an idea that, we undersell the creative industries to our children. It's important in terms of cognitive learning. We need to participate in society to keep it visual and dynamic. And also, it's really about freedom of expression. And art education needs to be reimagined in the 21st century. And the last item I have is a rather doomy statistic. Here we are. In 2013, 14% less children chose art or the arts at GCSE than in 2010. And I hope you'll join me on the 21st of August, and I hope you'll join me in future years to try and reverse this statistic and encourage children to study the arts, take them seriously, and think that art is part of who we are, and that art is actually really important because it's our freedom of expression.